But yeah, we could.
Post-supremacy
Yeah,
era.
I don't want to take up your whole morning
Oh,
chatting about this.
no, you
Um,
good. You good. You good.
we sadly missed the topic of narcissism and empaths, so I'll have to invite you for another episode where we can actually break that down because I really loved how in detail you went into it. Where sadly, a lot of the content I see now about narcissists paints a lot of fingers to narcissists, but doesn't actually look back to what's happening with the empath. There's something also their
I
childhood
have a I
and
have a
multiple
different
things going
theory
on.
about the empath. The empath is a
Mm,
form of a narcissist. I think narcissism is a
mm,
spectrum,
mm,
and a serial narcissist is at the high end of the spectrum, and
mm.
empaths are at the low end of the spectrum.
And they sort of need each other to
They need each other to work,
and they seek each other out.
and
What
they
the
seek each other
narcissist
out.
does
I
appeals to
don't
the
know.
empath. Yeah.
It's not that they seek each other out. They don't seek each other out. They behave on the same wavelength. They just do
Okay.
different. They just do different activities.
And they identify
So
each other because they're behaving on this wavelength.
because they feed on each other, yeah. So like
Mm.
imagine this, right? Okay, so things that define a narcissist. A narcissist has no sense of self-awareness,
Mm.
right? A narcissist is only defined by how they perceive others defining them as, right?
Mm.
Now,
That's
what's
self-acknowledgement, I'd say. I mean, self-awareness, because I found with narcissists, they're
they
very
don't have it.
keen. They're very
Right.
keen in other people's behavior and being able to pick out little things. However,
But
they
not keen on
themselves
their own.
don't care. They're aware of what they're
Exactly.
doing, but they don't care. So I think they're aware,
Exactly.
but they don't care about it. They they,
Now
they
check
know
this out.
exactly how to behave to get what they want.
Right. Exactly.
Mm,
That's why they do the love bombing phase.
mm.
Now what's different? Now think about this. What's different between what you just described and an empath?
I would say, and yeah, I'd agree. In a way, an empath sort of has to love bomb to feel acknowledged um, by them because they feel they need to have this grandeur person, and being attached to this grandeur person fills that need for love they've wanted since childhood, in a
There you
way.
go.
I really
So
like
then
the way you put it of how the empath is also another type of narcissist, and
if
that,
you if
yeah.
you if you standardize a narcissist,
Mm,
if you compare a narcissist to an empath and standardize them, they have common traits. The common
mm,
traits are that they both are serial recipients of acknowledgement from other people because they can't define themselves.
mm.
Narcissists just happen to be evil and extreme, and empaths happen to be naive and good.
Mm.
An,
It's
an empath, a lot of times, sometimes a woman that's a hoe can be an empath.
wow.
She can just be like, I just want to I just want a guy, so I'll just fuck everybody until I find a decent man.
I
So
found
you
it
just
so incredible the way you put it in your videos. Like literally, as I was watching the video, I'm like, "Where's this IG? I have to speak to this man." And um, I think your channel has got an incredible niche. The way you described that now, you've got an incredible niche there because I haven't heard anyone else pointing that out. That the reason why you attract so many narcissists is that you yourself may have narcissistic qualities that you have to
Mhm.
define within yourself. And when I started looking at it like that, that's why so many empaths fall so far into the trap of narcissism. And I was like,
Because if you can't recognize yourself that you're a
mm,
narcissist, guess what? You're not recognizing a narcissist in anybody else because
mm,
you yourself is a narcissist. So
mm,
they're blending in as you're scanning the environment because since
mm.
you don't recognize that in yourself, you're not seeing it in anybody else.
And probably a narcissist does narcissism so well that you're like, oh, they
But the
do it better than
narcissism,
me.
they're
They're
not
doing what
seeing
I
that
want,
they're
but better. Mm,
there you go. Exactly. And
mm,
they're seeing that I can manipulate this person to get them to do things for me too.
mm,
And that manipulation is that person attempting to get validation. So it's
mm,
the cycle of manipulation, validation, manipulation,
mm,
validation. And these
mm,
same two people in this toxic push pull don't even realize that they're both narcissists. One of
mm,
them is trying to define themselves through the good deeds and acknowledgement, and
mm,
the other one is doing it through satisfaction and gluttony.
mm. Totally, totally. And at least for me, when I was dealing with a narcissist, I saw how important it was to set boundaries. So it almost feels like when dealing with my own narcissism, I have to set boundaries for myself and also be
Absolutely.
like, this is the iron line for me.
Well, what do
And
boundaries usually do? What do boundaries usually do?
usually keep you in line, usually set a limit to how far you can take something and protect you
Ah,
from your emotions and your own behavior.
ah,
Mm.
they define what you will and won't take, right?
Mm.
They define it. What's the problem with a narcissist? A narcissist can't define themselves.
So it's somebody who lacked boundaries from their childhood,
There
and
you
things
go.
just went haywire
There you
from
go.
there. Oh, I see. I see. You've really put it in such an interesting way. There's an anime I really need to recommend to you, and I need to ask you if you can point out the narcissist and just see how well the behavior. And it's such a classic. I'm gonna send you a link after this, and even if you just watch a summary of it, not that you have to sit and watch every scene. We live in the modern age. We can watch a highlight reel and
Right.
I think some of the
Right.
best stories, the most sophisticated media, even from Shakespeare days, they identified this thing of narcissists and childhood trauma acting out on people, and it's part of the human experience. It just goes in cycles.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
breaking that cycle for me is what the red pill sort of is. It's being able to finally control what's happening through knowledge and understanding. I think at least for me, to tie all this up back to the story of the
The
Matrix.
goal should never be the red pill. The goal should always be to unplug.
Mm,
Red pill
mm,
is nothing. Cypher took a red pill.
mm,
Cypher's a piece of shit.
mm,
The goal is to unplug.
mm,
If you take a red pill, the red pill is a good place to stop if you just want to continue to control people.
mm,
You need this red pill because this red pill will give you hope. You never want to give somebody the whole picture. You only want to give them hope, because once you giving somebody the whole picture, well, they don't need you anymore. If I'm a life coach and I teach you how to live your life, you don't need me anymore. I don't want to teach you how to unplug, because then once you unplug, I won't be getting $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 every month. Once you've unplugged, my money stops. So I got to keep you strung along. This is a new form of a drug. I got some crack for you, and it'll make you feel, it's going to make you feel great. You don't know that you're going to get addicted to it, but now I know that you're going to come to me every day, twice a day, and say, I need to get high. Yeah.
I really
That's
like the
a
way
lot.
you put that. Even when I first saw, I believe they brought you onto the Lead Attorneys podcast, or it might have been Duke and Don. I'm like
It was
watching them.
Duke and Don. Yeah,
Duke and Don. And they gave you a small window to point out that you identified a lot of narcissism in what Myron Gaines was doing.
Oh,
And
absolutely. Yeah.
deep down, I think almost everyone on the whole cast and on the whole show has got different levels of narcissism and empaths. The people on the show, some even argue Ayinde when he came on and him wanting
Listen,
to work with them. They were all feeding into what each other needed. That's why
a
they all
simp.
glued to each other.
A simp is a serial empath. What does a simp do? A simp
Keeps
is
giving
someone
and giving in the hopes of some validation from her, even though she treats him like trash.
What does an empath do? So that simping is another form of narcissism. So we have a whole culture that's just based on different deviations of narcissism, and people wonder why the world is so damn toxic. It's because it's not that narcissism does or doesn't exist. It's just what kind of a narcissist are you? Because what we got to understand is that now in today's society, narcissism is the baseline human personality.
Completely. Wow, I've really learned quite a lot in the last 2 hours. We were chatting. I was hoping to cap it at 30 minutes, but we were hitting so many good points.
Man, listen, you could chop this up and make it, little 15-minute episodes or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, do what you want to do. The way that I always feel is that if something is going well organically, you know what I'm saying? Like, stretch it out as long as you can, you know what I'm saying? And then, just, go back and chop it up the way that you want to. Like, if you got a good life going, you know what I'm saying? And like things are going good for you. Say, hey, go hand me that gun. Everything's all good. I'm done. Let me just blow my brains out right now.
I want to end on a good note.
Yeah, I want to end on a good note.
He was just so happy. He wanted to end on a good note. Yeah. Wow.
But see, I think as humans, we tend to do that because we actually don't know. Like we actually, our definition, we create a lot of confusion by trying to define things. It's okay for some things to not be defined. See, like that's a problem with the human brain, is that a lot of humans don't work well being comfortable with uncertainty. But what we got to understand in a universe that we live in that's based on uncertainty is that the majority of shit that goes on isn't certain. the majority of it. We can't control everything. So we need to be able to be comfortable with not being in control.
But in a way,
And
that's sort of built into our, our psyche over generations. Because back in the day, if you were uncertain, anything could happen, and uncertainty meant death. So
but
it's
does
built
it
into our DNA.
wait. Does uncertainty mean death? Or
Historically, historically, it did.
does it?
Yeah.
Does it? So you mean to tell me that uncertainty for Black people would be, we didn't know that, now we're going to have to be dealing with slavery and white supremacy and all that. Uncertainty for white people was, guess what? We just found a continental gold mine.
So again, if we look at it in a myopic way, but if you look at it just throughout the human experience of multiple cultures of people, and I mean, when they call it the East Atlantic slave trade, I prefer to call it the Holocaust. I don't know if they killed them at like 70% of the people, to try get them eventually, and the conditions and taking them through that boat. The few
But this is what I'm saying.
Uncertainty meant death.
Uncertainty meant death if you were a slave on that boat.
And even the slave, the people out to catch them died as well. Because again, these were strong people, and there were stories of when they there's multiple stories of when even they went to the continent and the people overpowered and rebelled. Then they just said, look, everyone's going to die. So again, the reason why they had to do it, it was such a dangerous thing to do.
But fast forward to today. Fast forward to today. It was worth it for those people to die, because look at the privilege and empire that was set up to take care of those who are of subsequent generations from the people who were owning the slave ships. Now, nobody who pulled up on the shore that day, none of those white people that pulled up on the shore that day, knew that 400 years of wealth, supremacy, and prosperity would result from coming into contact with Black people.
I think they did know that they were certain about, because if you look at the task of doing something like that.
But do you see what I'm saying? No, what I'm trying to do, what I'm trying to explain to you is that this is the problem. Uncertainty is not equivalent to death, because uncertainty for white people was gracious rewards. Uncertainty for Black people has been subjugation. Uncertainty is only how you deal with uncertainty. It's not necessarily equivalent to death. If you're on the wrong end of uncertainty, right, then yes, death can be a result, but we don't want to mix results with conditions, because results come from conditions. Uncertainty is a condition. Death is a result. If it's uncertain that a car is going to come out of nowhere and hit me, the condition is uncertain. If that event takes place, then death is the imminent result. We need to understand these things very clearly, because those things help us to, make decisions. Uncertainty, there's a coefficient called the beta coefficient. And the beta
I'm familiar with it.
And that's from business, right? From investments.
Yeah, statistics, how a particular stock reacts to the rest of the market.
What is it? What does it mean? What does beta coefficient mean?
To my understanding, it is
risk, right?
Yeah,
uncertainty.
It's how something an individual reacts to the market. Yes.
So when it comes to studying stock, does a beta coefficient mean that a tank in that stock price is imminent, or does it mean that a tank can probably happen, but if a growth spike happens, then the growth spike will be worth the investment?
To my understanding of the beta coefficient, it's how sensitive something is to the market,
which is risk. Which it's indicative of risk, because the markets are based on risk. Everything that you get in an investment situation is based on risk. That's why they have risk in return. That's one of the reasons why cryptocurrency has such a high return, because it's risky. Nobody knows what's going on with it. Nobody really understands the patterns of how Bitcoin goes up and down. Nobody understands how mining works. Nobody understands how point of staking works. Nobody understands any of that shit. They just know one day it's worth $1, and then the next day you're a billionaire. And if you don't hurry up and get it off of Coinbase, you will be broke again by the end of the day. That's the only thing that we know about cryptocurrency. Right? And Why is it that it'll go from a penny to $1 billion to back to a penny again? Because it's risky, because it's volatile. It's volatile. It moves in a quantum and logarithmic way. We need to start thinking in a quantum and logarithmic way, because the way that we think is currently on a linear timeline. We can no longer add and subtract, because adding and subtracting are outdated. We need to be building things logarithmically and exponentially. You know what I'm saying? We can't think that uncertainty is death. We can't say that. We have to be very specific. And we have to understand why we need to be specific. If I buy a lottery ticket, does that mean death is imminent? What I bought when I bought that lottery ticket is I bought uncertainty. I bought a chance that I may or may not win a drawing. May or may not. Anytime there's a may or may not situation, that's uncertainty. Anytime there's a lights out imminent death, that's death. We have to look at it like that, because we miss lots of opportunities like that.
True.
And I think that's one of the reasons why, when it comes to investments and education and different things like that, we do look at uncertainty as death. Look, I'll go tell my parents, like, hey, mom, dad, look, I know I told them this. I told my parents this in 2016. I said, listen, if you guys go buy some cryptocurrency now, it's about $3,000 Bitcoin. If you buy it right now, just put $5,000 in there. That'll supplement your retirement. By the time you retire, you won't have to worry about nothing else. Oh, I don't know. I don't know, son. I don't know. Okay. Wait.
Sounds risky. I might lose money.
Sounds risky, right?
Yeah.
But look, here's the flaw, right? I'm your son. So you know I wouldn't do anything to hurt you, for one, right? For two, your son has a master's degree in business, which was highly, I had a lot of math classes that I had to take. So I'm very proficient in this stuff. So I have my parents telling me the same thing that a job is telling me. My parents. And I told my parents this. I gave them this breakdown. I said, you all are telling me the same thing that every employer told me. I'm proficient. I'm just not proficient enough to work for you. I'm giving you financial advice, and you as my parents should take it. Don't you trust your parenting? Don't you trust me? I've never gotten in any trouble. I've never done anything. And I did everything I was supposed to do as a kid. I got my degree. And now I'm using my degree to try to help y'all. And they didn't want to listen. They did not listen to me. And you know what I do now? Every week I ask them for $200. Oh, well, we're broke. We don't have the money. Well, I'm broke too. And you could have been rich, but you didn't listen. Give me my $200.
Wow.
But they didn't listen. And because they didn't listen, you know, cryptocurrency from that time went from $3,000 to $60,000. But why would your parents not listen to you when you love your parents, and especially when your parents did you right? My parents did me right. I had great parents growing up. You know, I don't have $1 million where I could give them, but I can give you some advice that could possibly really help you out. Why would you not take it?
Not yet, though.
We do that all the time to each other. And this is what a lot of Black people, like Dr. Claude Anderson said, Black people boycott other Black people. Black people boycott other Black people businesses. I'm your son, and you're listening to some idiot at a bank, and you're not listening to me. You are listening to some idiot at a bank who's plugged into a system that's meant to keep you financially suppressed. You've known me since a child, and you know that I'm completely against that, and you're not listening to me. What the hell is wrong with you?
I mean, there's more to the situation, though. I mean, the track record of performance, and we just need to see crypto win a bit more, and then everyone is going to be on board.
Listen. Did those investors in the early 2000s who invested in Yahoo, who invested in Google, did they have a pattern? No. The way that you do this is you study market conditions and you look at necessities. We're moving into a digital era where things are, you know, digital. Things are information and data based. You have to have what? The same thing that we say Myron doesn't have. Situational awareness. Dealing with people that say, I'm not going to use Cash App. I'm not going to use PayPal because I'm just not going to use it because that's the devil. And I'm just not going to use all that dumb, wacky ass shit. You're completely shielding yourself from the world that's evolving around you. That's why Black people are about to be in a really bad situation, because trying to isolate yourself, you're not looking at these post-supremacy updates that the world is doing. The world is doing updates. The cities are about to be smart cities. You know what that means? If you're Black and in the street in the wrong time, then guess what? The handcuffs can just come out of the ground mechanically and hold you right there until a drone can walk you to the damn jail. But that's cool to watch it while we're watching RoboCop. But to save your own ass, you don't even want to read an article in Wired about it. We got to start understanding that we're not in a
linear reality. We need to start thinking logarithmically. Change is going to happen exponentially in a very steep learning curve, and we have to be ready for changes that happen almost overnight.
That, but the thing, the only problem with your mathematical model that you just did, you said it's got to be exponential, and then you did this, and we went up, right? You forget that as Black people, we're down here.
Oh no, yeah, so negative. We've got a past we have to account for, and then
we still have to get to zero, and as far behind as we are at zero, it's going to take logarithmic and exponential. What we need to do is we need black hole time efficiency.
Oh wow,
that's what we need, which is completely, I mean, I don't think they're even there yet as far as physics goes. We basically, if you want to put Black people to where everybody else is, we need some shit where everyone else can be in a freeze frame, and we can move the space-time continuum together.
Oh boy.
So that the points can just walk together and then fold it back out so we can be at one. That's how far behind we are. We don't even have the technology necessary to get us to zero.
Oh boy.
And that's a bad thing. And I don't think people understand that the situation is that dire. And then when you talk about how dire it is, everybody tries to come up with stupid, nonsensical reasons of why you're wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about. How do I not know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm saying? But that's what we do, though. We do that collective stuff. You know what I'm saying? We'll be like, well, this person doesn't know anything because of this. We'll start finding reasons to assassinate somebody's character. And then in 20 years, you know what I'm saying? When the flood comes and you didn't build an ark, then people are saying you're acting funny because you don't want to, because you're not helping them. No, it's not that I'm not helping them. You said that you weren't going to do anything. So I made preparations for myself, and that's who's going to be using the preparations. It's not that I don't love you. It's not that I don't care about you. I gave you the same amount of knowledge that I had. You chose not to do anything with it. I chose to do something with it. I'm in, you're out, and you put yourself out. That's not my problem.
True. Okay. I think on that note, we'll end this episode here. The next episode...
Sound like a plan.
Yeah, no, definitely. Next episode, we can definitely chat about interplanetary racism, are Black Martian people the same as Black Earth people, all that good stuff. More to come. A big thank you to Blacklight Revelations. Check out all his channels.
Appreciate
Man with
you, bro.
a lot to say. His stuff on narcissism, empathy. No one else is speaking like this. And I've watched almost everything on YouTube about this topic. And yeah, if you'd ever like me on one of your channels, I'll definitely find some weird topics to chat about.
Man, we can make anything weird.
Oh yeah.
Until we start talking about it and see how normal it actually is.
Oh boy.
And then you get that chill down your back.
Oof. Scary things. But yeah, it's definitely been a pleasure. Please stay safe out there. And
yes, sir. You too, man. Appreciate you.
We'll end it here.